litigation, just like our, zoning.
Yeah, we don't have to call roll until after the budget.
All right, so are we streaming or Kenny or not? Okay. Okay, let's open it up for public hearing then.
Okay.
All rise. Nope,
Not yet.
not yet. Well, change my mind. Yeah, I'm sorry. As you were.
It's like hearing from the public delegation.
Yeah, exactly. All right, at this time, the chair will recognize anyone from the audience or the public that want to speak. So if you would, come to the mic and state your name and where you're from, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Any takers?
Hey, good evening. I'm Ken Stevens from AGA Insurance, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the group tonight. I wanted to talk to you, it does relate to the budget because it involves expenditures on insurance. 3 years ago, we had kind of a bumpy time with the bids on insurance. We were given part of the county business, and then it was taken away from us. Several weeks ensued where we were back and forth trying to get it worked out, and ultimately, the business was given to our competitor. We've had a similar situation happen this year on the bids. We submitted our bid for Roane County Schools on May 31st, and 2 weeks later, we were asked to revise our bid by the purchasing agent and increase the coverage amounts for the property, for the buildings and so forth. We did that and then heard nothing else over the course of the next 2 weeks. This past Monday night, I sent an email. It was late Monday, so in effect, it was Tuesday morning, to find out the status and the decision on who would get the insurance this time. And I was informed that the competitor would keep the insurance, even though we had a lower premium, $44,000 a year less. The purchasing agent sent an email, and I have copies of it that I would like to give you guys, explaining the decision. One involved deductibles for autos, and there was a difference in our proposals, a very slight difference when you consider it's a $500,000 insurance policy. 3 other items that were given as reasons that we did not get the insurance were blanket coverage for the buildings. Buses 10 years or newer would be on replacement cost. And the third item was inadvertent omissions. Those are all fantastic coverages, okay? None of those were listed in the bid specifications. We went by the bid specs, presented what we were told the county wanted, and we were never given an opportunity to include those coverages in our proposal. We could have. The problem is, we were notified Tuesday afternoon that we did not get the business and the policy renews on Saturday. So the clock was run out on us. We didn't have a chance to do anything about it. I want the commission to understand that 3 years ago, we believe strongly that we had the best quote and we had the best price by $41,000 per year. This year, we could have saved the county $44,000 per year. So you're talking about $250,000 over the course of 6 years. We're not alleging that anything illegal occurred. I think if you speak with the county executive and his staff, they would tell you that nothing unethical happened either. But when a decision is made to give someone a contract, and 3 of the 4 reasons were not in the bid specifications, I submit that that is not only unfair but unethical. And I wanted to let you guys know what had happened, and also to mention that we do have a small amount of business, some benefits, life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment. And I fully expect, because this time we chose to be vocal about it, compared to last time when we were pretty quiet about it, that that business will probably be taken from us as retribution. And if that happens, I'll appear here and let you know about that as well. The reason this is tied to the budget discussions is, I know that you want to be good fiduciary, you value your fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of Roane County, as well as protecting its assets. And 2 times in a row now, when insurance is concerned, we're spending more money than necessary to protect those assets. So I thank you for the chance to speak, and appreciate all that you guys do, and ladies, for our county.
All right, thank you, sir.
And may I approach and
Yeah,
please.
All right, anyone want to speak to that, or?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes,
Uh,
Mr. Perry.
we had a risk management meeting, I think Tuesday, Monday. And basically for the purpose of insurance. He's correct, not only in the last 3 years, probably in the last 20 years. That's probably the hardest thing there is to bid, because just as he mentioned, there's so many different specifications. And if you look at this policy versus that policy, no policy is written with the same language. The policy is written with the same coverages. It's really, really difficult. I've been in his shoes. I left one time with the business, and by the time I got back to my office, I didn't have it any longer. It is tough. The county attorney, I think, has been involved in looking at the coverages. Our purchasing agent was ill. The school people were there, and I think this bid was just for the schools. If I'm not mistaken, it was just for the schools. And our committee questioned several times about the coverages. And I didn't remember it being 10 years or less. I was under the impression it was replacement cost on buses, as I understood it. So if you had a 10-year-old bus or a new bus, it was going to be replacement cost on that bus. So a bus costing, and we discussed that a bus costing $150,000. If it was totaled, are you going to get your $44,000 back that you're basically taking those purchases for? I'm disappointed to hear, though, that you're saying if you bid on any additional business that you won't get it. That's not fair. There's nothing that went on. That committee actually made a motion to accept what the schools asked us to do. So there was nothing, we looked at that information. We did not have a coverage sheet in front of us. We were told that the purchasing agent and the county attorney had looked at it. They had seen some differences, as they do in the last several things. I think, Mr. County Attorney, you've helped look at several of those bids and saw significant differences in coverages. In one, I think one that came up with the schools was pollution. One didn't have pollution. Well, that's a pretty big item to cover. Don't know which one was and which one didn't, but pollution was a big factor. That wasn't mentioned on that, so I don't know which company. But my point is, committee looked at it, and that's what that committee is for. And we made the recommendation to go with what the schools were happy with. That was, I guess it's their choice to decide. It's their money, it's their choice to decide which way to go. But certainly it was looked at, and we didn't have any information in front of us whose was who, so it didn't matter to us.
All right, thank you, sir. Any others?
I got a question. So if you're gonna put out a bid, how can a man fairly bid? And I'm asking, if it's apples to apples or oranges to oranges, so how can men you go bid on something if we're not held to a standard to be able to bid with each other? Now, maybe that's a question for you, Mr. Attorney, but so how does that legally work, or how does that?
The two things that stood out to me in looking at both bids, the bid specs that we sent out specifically asked for pollution coverage and replacement value on buses. The losing bid did not have pollution coverage. The losing bid did not have replacement value on buses. They had actual cash value. The winning bid provided pollution coverage and replacement value on buses. So we met with the school representative from the school system. They indicated that $44,000 a year was worth paying for what we had asked for, which was replacement value on buses, because a new bus costs in excess of $100,000. So, in comparing insurance bids, they're never apples to apples, because you get coverage from one company for certain things and coverage from another company for certain things. In awarding bids, you're not required to accept the lowest bid. You're required to accept the best bid and the most conforming bid. And it appeared to me when I looked at it, based on the volume of questions that were in this bid spec as to what coverages you're willing to provide, it appeared to me that the company that won the bid was closest to what was asked for in the bid specs.
All right. All right, let's go ahead and move on with the public hearing.
Can I make a response to that?
You can come to the podium.
Sure. I don't disagree with anything that Ron or the county attorney both said. The problem we've got is their bid specs didn't request that we bid the buses with a replacement cost on it, the 10-year replacement cost. If we had been given the chance to do that, we could probably come back with a cheaper rate than what they're paying now anyway. So it's not the fact that they did anything illegal. It's the fact that we weren't given the same opportunity to quote on something that wasn't specified in the specs, and the other party was.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on. Anyone else want to address the county commission? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll close out this section of the public hearing. All right, then next, we'll go into the budget committee. Is that correct in my understanding at this point?
Yes. So I call the budget committee. Okay. So you turn it over to me?
You have the chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget committee is now in session. Members, there's a short agenda in front of you. And you also should have, and I think all members, even if are not members of the budget committee, should have a short presentation. We can go over here. This isn't on the commission agenda, so we're doing this in the budget committee, but if all members can follow along, I'll give a very brief presentation, just so we all have a basic understanding of the structure and accomplishments of this budget, and then we will move forward. If you turn to page 3, you'll see a budget overview, and really this just lists the basic structure of this budget and the accomplishments of this budget. Make sure we all get the same place first. Does everybody see where we are?
Not yet.
We're using this presentation here. We got it?
Yes.
You got yours? Good. All right, turn to page 3. You see, page 2 is just the table of contents, really. Page 3. First thing we're accomplishing in this budget, we're maintaining a stable tax rate. Outside rate at 240, which is the rate of this current budget. Inside the city is at 234. In this budget, we're able to accomplish a 5% raise across the board for county employees, not including the sheriff and jail staff, which was addressed in the April budget, or the April meeting where we addressed the budget changes. This also limits the amount, as we did in April also, the amount that employees are paying for their health insurance for the purpose of retention and recruitment. With this, we're able to add a planning department, cooperating with cities of Harriman, Kingston, and Oliver Springs. We're able to completely renovate our health department with $1.7 million in grant funds from the state of Tennessee that they have mandated that we do. So this budget it enables us to move forward with that renovation project. We'll be building a spay-neuter clinic. We're appropriating the funds to do that out of capital, and in reconfiguring one of our highest volume convenience centers. Those are just some highlights. There's many others, but I just wanted to put some context to what we're able to accomplish. We turn to page 4. Just so everybody understands, this budget is operating to be in compliance, or the process that we're under is operating to be in compliance with the county budgeting law of 1957, the county purchasing law of 1957, and the county fiscal procedure law of 1957. All of those are governing documents that we must abide by in our processes to bring you this document for approval. Connie, interject
No,
anything
you're
at any
fine.
point.
You're doing good.
Turn to page 5. On the policy side of things, not only are we bound by law and 1957 acts, but we're also bound to abide by our own policies. The fund balance policy, capital projects policy, debt management policy, donation acceptance policy, vehicle procurement policy, spending prioritization policy, and policy on investment. Those are the guidelines that we, not guidelines, but the policies that we have to abide by for us to remain compliant per comptroller's regulations. Turn to page 6. It provides an operating revenue. If you look at the funds we anticipate to receive for FY24, looking at $139,776,164. We're projected to spend $161,905,094. That's a difference of $22,128,930, but that's almost all assigned to ARP funds, ESSER funds at the schools, and then fallout. So you put those three together, and it's going to equal about $22,128,000. That's with the 8% fallout. And then you'll see the impact on fund balance that's going to have as we go forward. Turn to page 7. Value of a penny. Good news here. For budgeting purposes, we budget at a 95% collection rate, and that's to protect our cash flow. But the value of a penny, as you'll see, increased. If you look in the rural, it increased from $83,100 to $85,029. Again, that's 95%. And if you look at countywide, it would be increased from $138,000 to $142,698. If you look at 100% value of a penny, full value of a penny right now is $150,208. So we've crossed the $150,000 threshold for the first time in our history. So we've seen fairly significant growth in the value of a penny, which is good news. Page 8, local option sales tax. It's just a breakdown of the differences between 22, 23, and 24 budgets and what we anticipate those funds to be in the 24 budget. And some differences there. Connie, you want to add anything on why the differences are here?
From your projected, we always, in the school departments, their budget is lower due to maintenance of effort, but we always allow that growth because they receive 50%. So
Right.
that difference, and some people may be wondering why they have 9 million and we're only budgeting 8. We allow them, if something was to happen with the local sales tax, and it decrease,
There's some buffer.
then there's that buffer.
So what you're seeing, the difference in the FY24 budget projection at 8.8, why it's so much lower is that those two previous, 9.198 and 9.302, those are actuals. So they receive more money than we budget that they think they will. And it's to have that buffer in case sales tax drops during the year.
Is part of that due to the new funding as well?
Do the new fund? No, this is just looking at sales tax, local option sales tax. That doesn't have anything to do with the new funding there.
And we still have a quarter percent left on.
And we talked about that as potentially a budget goal for next year, it being an election year.
Right.
Because that had to be in referendum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, any other questions? Well, I'll ask questions here in a second. Yeah, turn to the next page. You'll see a breakdown of total revenue sources. This may be a bit of a surprise. When I first saw it, I thought, that's the county budget. Why is 43% state? Because schools are a part of the county budget, and so much a part of their funding comes from the state government. So that is a short, Connie, anything you want to add?
No, I just appreciate the budget committee and everyone who had a hand in getting this budget to where it's at. We couldn't do it without everybody's help. It is a team effort.
Committee members, any questions or anything you all want to add before we move forward?
Yes.
Ron?
I guess on the budget overview there, we're it says we put caps on health insurance.
Yeah, that may be terminology.
Okay, because we're looking at it every year.
Yes.
To see-
By resolution.
Right, to see where that number is,
That's
right?
exactly right.
Okay.
Yes.
And as we look, you know, I think the last time that I served on the budget committee, our budget was like $125 million. Guys, it's much more complicated now than it's ever been. You've got money coming at you from numerous places. You got expenditures, you got capital budgets now that we didn't have before. It's a complicated process. I think one thing that everybody needs to hear, and I think we've talked about it before, but help me if I'm wrong. Our budget, because we're using $900,000 of interest money, right? So our real budget is 7 pennies. That would equate to 7.
Correct.
Okay, so in essence, we're borrowing money to operate on with our salaries and things. Is that?
Well, we're utilizing.
We're using 7 pennies.
We're utilizing an alternate
Another,
source of revenue.
yes.
Okay. Well, nothing.
As long as the interest rate remains 4.9, 4.5%, as long as it stays within this, we are not using taxpayers' money.
But we're not putting anything back for capital projects or any other stuff. We're subsidizing, we're paying salaries and things with money that typically we would have put back.
We could have put
Yes.
into debt service and
Right.
capital,
Okay,
correct?
that's sort of getting 5 cents to capital. It'd been wonderful to give another 5 cents into capital.
Right, and so I just want to make sure we're all aware that's what we're facing. As that interest goes up, we're gonna have more money. We're
Correct.
gonna have more money coming in. As it comes down, then we're gonna have to tighten our
We'll
belt
have
and
to
look at
address
this
that
thing.
then.
Just want to make sure everybody is aware that we've got that, and that's how we're operating. Thank you. One other thing. The 8% fallout, you know, and again, coming back on the budget committee, one of the things that we operate on is if we didn't have that 8% fallout, if that dropped to 6% fallout, you've got the same situation as we have with the interest. And like in a couple of places, if we inflate those line items a little bit at all, that's increasing our fallout, right? So that's what we have to be really careful about, and the budget committee looked at that. A good example of that was gasoline over in the sheriff's department, where they were asking 2 years ago for 159, they gave them 180 something, but that number got to 267,000 or something. So there's $87,000 in this year's budget, reduced that, so that's effective $87,000 of fallout we didn't get, that would have been in there had that stayed there. So it's a, you know, people say, well, why is the budget so well? It's different than your house budget. It's different than your business budget. The government just works different. That's all I can say.
And, okay, can I say something to that point too? Because me and Commissioner Lehman had this conversation today. It is important for all y'all to understand that fallout and fund balance are roughly the same thing. Fallout in this budget becomes fund balance in the next budget. Does that make sense? So we use that fund balance to budget with. It becomes fallout, hopefully again next year.
Fallout's what they don't use.
Exactly, and we use what they don't use as
a fund balance.
As a fund balance. There you go.
And how much of that have we clipped on this budget?
Clipped.
Took out, used.
So that we're gonna get that, in this current budget, we're anticipating about $637,000 in fund balance on this budget.
So, when the interest goes down, we can't afford to make them payments, taxes will go up.
Well,
If we're
it's
using that.
we're using an alternate revenue stream as one of the sources of the total budget. If revenue decreases, some revenue streams will increase and some revenue streams will decrease. And you look at the total picture and what your expenditures are. If there's things, you know, if revenue goes down, we have to cut costs, then you cut costs. If you can't cut costs, then you have to find revenue somewhere else. So it's just a constant puzzle.
You're talking about using it for, salaries, and salaries are forever. They don't go away till the person retires.
Well, there's maintenance of effort in some places, and that's the case in there.
That too.
I could cut salaries out of my budget if I had to. Some we can, some we can't.
And that's, therein lies a lot of our problem is the maintenance of effort that you have to be careful of.
Yeah.
And just like maintenance of effort and you know, we've got the same situation where we're creating, and I don't know how many, I know we've grown government this year some, because.
Yeah, there's some new positions.
Because of different things. So all of that is in there.
But that point, our budget this year, our overall budget's lower than last year's budget.
Fortunately, the schools, you know, the schools have done a good job of keeping their costs down, and Director Jenkins and his staff, that's helped us. That's helped us tremendously because the monies that they're getting from the state. $150,000 of our penny. I can remember when our penny was like $1.10, just a couple of years ago. It's growing every year, and although our population may not be growing, we've either got new monies coming in from tourism, or people spending their money at our locations as they're traveling through our county. Something is causing the value of our penny.
Well, according to comptroller, we've gone for 3.1% since 2020.
So everything's looking good. Just, you just have to keep in mind that when you read the paper about interest rates, you know, interest income, and I mean, we're all gaining more money at ourselves. You can go down now and get a 5% CD, so it's everywhere. So we just need to make sure we keep that in mind.
Mr. Berry, anything else?
That's all I have, sir.
Other members, anything before we move to the next item on the agenda? So the only thing we have left is a transfer request we have before you. I need a motion and a second for interdepartment transfer request. Second? Second. Connie, you got that?
Yeah.
All right, this is a transfer request looking at General Sessions Court and juvenile functions. Just some final last minute cleanup, right, Connie? Anything
Yes,
you want to add?
they had some cases where they had to have, some juvenile, reviewed.
Was it detention in other places?
Yes,
That's what I thought. So we're paying, this is to help pay for overages when they've had kids detained in other jails as part of it?
correct. And they had 3 of them, so it raised the cost at the last minute.
Any discussion or questions?
I want to,
Well, okay, go ahead, Mr. Kirby.
I think the county commission on working together to get insurance, our employees a better plan to save them money, and also coming up where we able to give a raise this year. I think this county commission has worked good on the whole thing.
Thank you.
Kirby, I think you're the one that really challenged us to do that when we very first started talking. So I really think you're the one who's responsible for challenging this committee to meet that.
Any other discussion, questions on the transfer? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. They have a motion, we adjourn. So moved. Second. Motion, meeting adjourned. Mr. Chairman,
All right,
back to you.
Mr. Bailey. All rise. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. This Honorable Commission meeting of Roane County, Tennessee is now in session. The Honorable Chairman Shannon Hester presiding. God bless these United States, the great state of Tennessee, and this honorable meeting. At this time, Commissioner Hooks will lead us in prayer. Remain standing afterwards for place to our nation's flag.
Let's bow our heads. Father, it's again that we come to you, Lord, thanking you for another opportunity together as a body, a governing body, Father, Lord, to sort through the things that needs to be sorted through to make our county a better county, Father, in which we live, our state a better state. But Father, most of all, we want to lift up, Father, those, Father, tonight that are suffering with illness, Lord, and Renee's daughter, Father, Lord, and her son, P-Man, Jackson. Lord, I could go on, just children here in our community that are suffering, Lord, with different causes. Lord, we pray that you just put your arms around them, love them up, keep them safe, and lay your healing hands upon them. Lord, as we go forward in this meeting, Lord, we're thankful, Lord, to be part of a great body, Father and Lord, and bring another budget. Father, Lord, that, Father, the taxpayers can rest assured that we've worked our diligence. Lord, and help us, Lord, to be strong. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated, and please silence your phones. All right, if you've not signed in, please do so at this time. All right, all have signed in, show two absent. At this time, we're going to accept, first off, let me, Chair recognize you just for one moment. Appreciate all the work, this meeting especially for the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee you just witnessed has met 18 times this year to bring this budget to us, with one 7-hour power meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So do appreciate everyone's hard working effort, on that, subcommittee for working that. So thank you. This time, accept motion, for reports and correspondence. Motion by Berry. Second by Gann. Commissioner Berry.
Nothing, Your Honor.
It was?
What? Well, wait just a minute.
We'll take it, Commissioner Gann.
Oh, nothing.
All right.
You can't move out of that seat from now on.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Call the roll.
Mr. Chairman,
Motion passed.
we have minutes from 6:26 as well that aren't on the agenda, but we also need to approve. You have copies of them at your desk. So we don't need to add it to the agenda because this is a special call meeting, but we need to address them now at this point in the agenda.
Okay, I said item number 9 is what was listed, so.
Yes.
Oh, it's on there?
No, it's not on there, I'm just referring to the paper that you'll see.
Oh, yeah, number 9.
The reason there's a 9 on that was my fault, because I thought the minutes were intended for the July meeting after I put the packet together, so just ignore the 9.
Okay,
It helps the damn.
it actually does. So I need a motion to accept, this correspondence here. Motion by Hooks, a second by Wilson. Commissioner Hooks.
I'll refer to the county executive.
This is just our minutes from Monday night's meeting, where we approved the documents that are before.
All right. Commissioner Wilson.
Nothing further.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I found out that, I'd ask a question if I know there were two things.
Well, I know that, but we're moving through this, pretty quick, so, if no, any other discussion on it?
This is a different resolution in the minutes, this is a 1%
Yeah,
match.
we're already, because the minutes and correspondence were all one.
So it's all,
We're
so
all
we don't,
one. Yeah,
so it's already, doesn't need to vote
unless you
on it.
wanna take a separate, like,
No, unless
Universal
anybody
list.
objects to that, we'll, combine it with the first one, is that correct? All right, hearing, seeing none. We'll retire that one.
Yeah, but apparently.
All right, at this time, we'll go into new business. This time, resolution 62301, a resolution amending, resolution 122205, reflecting a 1% match in the amount of, $1,220 for violent crime investigation fund. Motion by Hooks, second by Wilson. Commissioner Hooks.
Happy Father.
Commissioner Wilson.
I think there's something wrong, I didn't push, or is this on the other one?
I don't know, gonna take it.
Yeah, I'm kinda messed up here, looking at
We
this.
didn't vote on the other minutes, did we?
Right, it's showing present, that's.
On the 626 minutes?
So it was part of the, as Barry stated, if he knew this too, he
It
would
wasn't,
spoke.
it wasn't on the agenda because they were just turned in, and so.
So we're just using for the first one. By the
Unless you
motion
all wanna
second.
take a separate vote, we could do like a universal voice vote, so I wouldn't have to,
Hey,
whatever you wanna do.
Whichever's easiest for you.
all those in favor of taking 623, or item number 9 is 626, 2023 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. All right, now let's get back to this other one, 62301. Ariel, if you would reset it, I guess, it's Hooks and Wilson was from before.
Mr. Chairman, is that 01B?
No,
No, no, no.
it's 01, we'll get to 01B.
We don't have an old one.
I don't, it's on your packet?
You've got an 01B in your packet on your desk.
62301.
62301, need a motion for it for matching funds for the Sheriff's Department violent crime. Motion by Barry, second by Hooks. Commissioner Barry.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Hooks.
Nothing further.
Hold on.
It should be in your packets that Ariel sent.
Well, Amber sent the physical package.
Yeah,
'cause
she
that was
sent
on
the
there.
physical.
But now, everybody got a fresh email before the meeting with a link to the electronic packet.
And I think you and I are synced, are we not? I'm calling what you're posting, so.
It's on
It's
your.
on your.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
And if you can't find that one, Mr. Bell has a copy of 01 in the, if we need to pass that around, because I don't have, I thought she had sent copies to everyone, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just got the email, so you can have it.
all right, so who doesn't have a copy of that resolution of 62301?
We got it.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
All right, any discussion, for 62301? All right, hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll. All right, pass, resolution 62302, a resolution amending general fund 101 reflecting changes in revenue expenditure estimate for 22-23 fiscal year. Motion by Hooks, second by Wilson. Commissioner Hooks.
This is the budget process that we endured those 18 meetings. Budget committee recommends approval.
All right, Commissioner Wilson.
I concur with the vote.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk. All right,
Chairman.
I got you. Lock and clear, ceasefire. Mr. Bell.
I had heard talk about the extra monies that we picked up from the extra positions at the school officer. Is that in this budget?
Yes, it's not in this.
No.
Well, we're voting, this is a cleanup resolution that we're on right now, but in the budget that we're getting to next, yes, and we can definitely discuss that. But this is just final cleanup of these last, functions here, yes.
Thank you.
Budget committee, county buildings, and preservation of records.
I appreciate it.
All right, any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I may be looking into this, but it says resolution amending general fund 101, and it says estimate for the 22-23 fiscal year.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, this is final
It's
cleanup,
cleanup,
this,
yeah.
this is a cleanup, right, for this year, right. We're not on budget yet. Thanks.
All right, any other discussion?
And this one's been to the budget committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we did this Monday night.
It's the one you voted yes on.
Yeah, this is the one you voted, yes.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll. All right, majority passed. Then, resolution 62301 Bravo, resolution fixing the tax levy in Roane County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. Motion by Hooks, second by Wilson. Commissioner Hooks.
This sets our tax rate for the next year, and it's been to the budget committee and went through the process, and, this is what it is, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Wilson.
Definitely glad it didn't raise. We can always be better, but I'm thankful we didn't raise it, so.
All right. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm setting this, and again, I think O2 goes into depth on this, you know, we started out with a 5% raise for our employees, and then they wanted to take it to 3%, we brought it back to 5%. I think to me, the biggest disappointment in this budget has been the fact that we last year, at the request of the sheriff to take everybody to $44,000 and $39,000. And we did that because he said that was gonna be enough. And then to come back in mid-year, 3 months or 4 months, and put us in a bind again for another raise. That's the disappointing part of this whole thing for me is and now we're gonna be looking at, as you go look through the budget again, we're gonna be looking at SROs, which the state has helped us tremendously with that, because we're gonna be picking up money that we were paying before, that schools were paying before. I think the schools are paying 75% of that cost. So that's additional monies for the schools, it's additional monies for us, except the fact that, you know, when you start putting, and we're gonna be buying new vehicles. So that's $220,000 for new vehicles and stuff. So that was the disappointing thing. I think other than that, we've looked at the budget, we've rolled over some rocks. Obviously, the more rocks to roll over, you can't get it all in 1 year. That's the biggest thing. The tax rate stays the same. And once again, people have to understand that, you know, a lot of times they think if the tax rate's staying the same, that's good. Well, it's good for that year, but you gotta look down the road a little bit, just like you do at home, and we'll find out, you know, in the next 2 years if it's good or not. You gotta remember, there's still it's good, $287,000 of salaries that we haven't even paid for yet. That'll be in next year's budget. And I keep saying that just for you to remember that it's gonna get harder and harder to say no tax increase. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Commissioner Bale.
That money you told me where it is.
Well, it's in the next resolution. This is a tax levy, but yeah, it is, let me get to the next one. You'll wait till we get to the next one and we'll dig in there.
Let's stick with the agenda.
Yeah.
This
We're
is
just talking about the tax levy, you're just talking about the revenue side on this resolution.
Oh,
All right, any discussion on the tax levy, 62301 Bravo? Hearing none, Madam Clerk. All right, motion carries.
We have a resolution that needs to be added before we go to the next one.
Before?
That 131.
It needs to go before this one?
I've got it.
Yeah.
Okay. This was approved Monday night. Yeah.
So this is 62303. Now I've got a operational statement, so.
Yeah, it's not that. This is 131. Look at 131 funds
So
there.
this was the highway department amending the highway department.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And Connie, we need to do this now before we do the appropriations
Yes,
resolution?
please.
Okay.
All right,
Dave?
so this is, resolution 62303, amending the highway department fund 131, reflecting changes in revenue expenditures estimate for 22, 23. That's what I have. Commissioner Hooks, motion again, Commissioner Hooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was brought forward to the budget committee. Budget committee reviewed it, recommending approval. Nothing further.
Commissioner Gann,
Nothing further.
any discussion?
Yeah, somebody tell me just exactly what we're doing here. It's been
Yeah, so
like a ball now.
final cleanup resolution, looking at 131 highway fund. We had to move $45 from one place to the next.
Okay. So like,
That's it.
right here from.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk. All right, motion carries. Then the next one will be 62302 Bravo. Resolution making appropriations for various funds, department, institutions, offices, and agencies of Roane County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1st. Motion by Hooks. And a second by Kirby. Commissioner Hooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is what we've, been working on in the budget cycle. This sets out the various, department funds and their budgets, for the next coming year.
Commissioner Kirby. Commissioner Goss.
Mr. Chairman, only question I've got, it'll probably be for Connie or the executive. On the 101, the county general fund, on the code compliance, was that where those positions was made? Or
Yes.
the positions that were, because of lands moving up?
You've got, a new planner, an assistant planner position. And then the 5% raises, and because Glenn has another inspector working under him now, and will have another assistant planner, then his salary was raised because of that.
So they took all of them in, so we're good.
Correct.
So I have some.
All right, any other discussion? Commissioner Bell.
So if you point that out.
Yes, you'll go to, second page there, public safety. It is in the FY24 line in the sheriff's department. So, if you go into the detailed budget, it comes out to about $902,000 in salary. And then you've got all your benefits after that, which take it up to about 1.3 million. And then, and then the rest was in, but, and also in that is the equipment, $110,000 in equipment. So.
All right, now where do the, new costs from where we got the school officers, and we're picking up the cost of the cars?
That'll be in capital, in the VEH. And that, so if you go there to.
How much is that?
Was $216,000 for 4 cars. And that's just the SRO portion. That is not their usual rotation.
Right.
So the property committee voted last Thursday, I think it was, to increase the sheriff's fleet by those 4 cars. We needed to add 6 SROs because they only had 11. But they bought 2 cars last year that weren't used because they couldn't fill those 2 positions. So we didn't have to buy 6, we just had to buy 4. So property committee voted to increase the fleet size by 4. And that comes out of VEH on 171, right?
Well, I've talked to the sheriff's office, and they, especially after the vote, they were really surprised that they got the amount of money that they got. And, voiced it to me, and I agree. If I'm gonna try to get money, I'm probably gonna try to get as much as I can. If they cut it down, hopefully it gets to where we need. And, us taking on the price of those cars, I think since they got extra in what they thought they were gonna get, I think I'd like to amend it to that the cost of those cars go to the sheriff's budget.
Well, that puts it in 101. 171 is just capital funds there to spend. And we add 5 cents of revenue into 171 every year. That's what the tax levy appropriation did. But if we impact Fund 101, then that impacts fallout and fund balance going into next year's budget. So these are just general statements for awareness. It's basically where we pull the money from. We have money sitting in capital, it's unassigned. And so when we went through in budget committee and property committee and talked about it, and you had available capital money unassigned, it was the easiest place to pull it from that had the least amount of impact. If you start using, general fund money, where the sheriff's budget is, you're impacting the amount of fund balance it's going to require to balance the overall budget. So you'll see in the next, I keep referring to the next one, I apologize, but in the operational statement that you'll look at, our total amount of fund balance we're asking you all to use out of 101 to fund the general budget. Connie, where would it be on this?
The general fund is on the very top.
Thank you.
It's your first, fund on the first line.
We're not gonna do math here. It's $637,000 for fund balance required to fund this budget. If we took that 216 out of 101 instead of 171, add 216 to 637. And I don't wanna do math here. We don't wanna get into that. Yes, ma'am.
And let me, when you mentioned we had policies, we set our capital policies that we did not pay for vehicles in your operations because it's a one-time thing and it's in a cost that's above 20,000. So that is why we have it in the 171. We would not put it, just based on our capital policies, we would always keep it in the 171 fund.
Okay.
I'll pull my amendment. That's all I got.
Commissioner Henderson.
Mr. Cresswell, are we buying brand new police cars?
I believe so.
Why are we buying them when they ain't gonna be on the road with brand new police cars? Couldn't we take some that they want to tire off the road and use them for resource officers? I mean,
that's a discussion that we have been
that's my thought.
Inside and out of many times in a long time, and I'd have to refer to Chief Phillips, he's in the Chief.
What's the question?
I mean, are we buying resource officers brand new cars? Couldn't we put that as for a road officer and take one off the road that you can be taken off and give to them? I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah, so just a brief rundown. We've been on a replacement program for some time, and basically it cuts down on the maintenance of the vehicles and what we're paying out to maintain the cars. And so when we go through this rotation, we try to surplus the ones that are costing us the most money. That's, where motors are going out, transmissions are going out, they're driven between 150 miles and 300 miles a day. So we try to surplus the ones based off our policy for the county. And whenever we're buying vehicles, we generally buy them new. One of the things we've done in the past, which has changed during the COVID process, was Missouri Highway Patrol had cars that they sold at a surplus. They put 50,000, between 40 and 50,000 miles on them, then they sell them. Well, with the shortage of vehicles, they run those cars now past 60 and 70,000 miles. So we just recently had one wrecked, and when we got the insurance recovery money, I priced buying a Missouri car or priced buying a new car. There's a $2,000 difference. A car with 60 to 70,000 miles on a brand new car. So financially, it just makes better sense to buy the newer vehicle.
Well, I mean, I know what you're saying, but you missed what I'm saying. Can we take one that we've already got off the road for resource officers, gonna drive from there, go here 2 miles down the street, or whatever other school, and put the new car on the road? Wouldn't that make better sense? I mean, that's my thing. I mean,
however it goes, it's gonna be in the rotation of the fleet. If you put it in the school resource officer, it's gonna last longer.
exactly.
So if you put the new car with the school resource officer, it's gonna last longer, so we're not gonna have to replace them as much. If, they do go to regular patrol in the summertime, so during the summertime, they're gonna be on regular patrol. So when we're having our officers in the cars, we wanna make sure that they're fit to drive we get it, we think, well, they're just driving to school, well, there's other things they do other than just drive to school, so we wanna make sure that it's fit enough for them to drive in general.
I get that, but my thought is, that, you know, while school's going on, why can't they use a retired road car that they can be getting the mileage and stuff put on it?
It's gotta be a reliable thing, so everything that we have is a reliability thing and a liability thing from a risk management standpoint. So that's taking all that into consideration. I get what you're saying, but, you know, safety is the number one thing in my line of work. And putting somebody in a dependable vehicle, in a safe vehicle, where it cuts down on liability, cuts down on maintenance costs, it's a totality of everything. We're just trying to do the best thing for the taxpayer.
Well, my thought was that it's gonna sit at the school all day, you know, it don't have to be.
Or it's not, you know, they don't just sit at the school.
Right, they not.
Yeah,
But,
so
you know,
we wanna make sure that it's reliable. So that's kind of our process.
I mean, that's fine, I just asked.
All right, Commissioner Byrd.
Chief, what's the average age of a vehicle that the current SROs are using?
I'd have to look at the list.
I mean, they're not new, probably 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah, so whenever we started encompassing the school resource officers, into our budget, we didn't come to the county commission asking for 9 cars. We just kept it at 6, so we kept pushing those cars out, and we've gotten to the point where we're almost at a hole.
But I guess that's what I'm saying to him, was that we've got SRO officers that are driving 7, 8-year-old cars.
Absolutely.
And doing okay. The other thing, I guess, my question is, do we need to, because I think at one time, was our policy not, every new car we get rid of them?
Unless we add to the fleet.
Is this not adding to our fleet?
Well, we added 4 to the fleet.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The property committee approved it.
That's what, we added those 4 to the fleet property.
Sorry, we went to sleep.
All right,
You were in the chair of the property.
But I thought there was a resolution that we have to.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I was thinking that we had a resolution that set that policy, that vehicle procurement policy. So,
Yeah. I think we abided by it.
so the property committee has the authority to change that without bringing it back to the commission?
Only to add to the fleet,
They can do that?
that's what the policy says.
all right, Commissioner Bradley.
I'm trying to understand the fallout, new at it. So I'm hearing a big number of fallout, and to me, it's money, hey, we don't need this money, so let me give it back to them, right?
Well, it's conservative budgeting to create a buffer in case something happens. If there's a cash flow issue and revenue tanks, you've got money built in that'll help you pay your bills and meet payroll. If there's something that happens that we need to invest in, you can take from your fund balance, to be able to do those things. And so fallout is basically money saved to build fund balance. And then you decide how much fund balance each year you want to use to plan your budget. So right now, in this budget, we used 8%. So we're taking 8% of our total money and basically, I don't want us to put it in reserve, because that's a whole other thing. We're kind of creating this buffer around our spending to give us the space. And then that extra money we save, we just roll into the next budget.
So when I hear the sheriff department gives back, what's it usually each year?
It was over $1 million last year.
Okay, over $1 million. And I hear budget, and I'm not just picking on them, I guess every department gives a little bit back, you know.
Yes.
That does, but I guess when you're budgeting, and if it's a consistent give back at that kind of money, can we not tighten up something, or is there not something for the taxpayers?
They could. We were very fortunate to have the elected officials that we have right now, because they can spend every penny.
Right.
They have, when we appropriate these funds, they could spend down to every single penny, but that's just gonna put their budget, when we start doing the budget, that's gonna put them in a much tighter situation next year. So our elected officials have worked with the budget committee and commission to stay within that fund balance policy and protect as much fallout as they can. And we're very thankful for that, because it makes budgeting much easier.
So do we have fallout per se from the schools?
Yes.
I mean, what kind of number is that, just over the course?
Sometimes 2 to 3% of their expenditures are fallout.
Yeah.
Am I right, Derek?
So numbers, give me a number for.
There,
4.8 million this year. What do you, look at their budget?
Right, I'm
Yeah.
saying the fallout each year, right, so I'm new and I'm gonna ask these questions, and if it
That's
makes
okay.
somebody mad, it does, but here's the deal. If we have this kind of fallout, is that normal for just, or is there something that we can do, they can do? I mean, yeah, they can spend it all, but I guess.
it's not intuitive. It takes some time to live.
Right, so are we, as a body, are we feeding too much and leaving too much out there? Is there something we can pull? I don't understand that.
Dave, what I was told years ago, we have to over budget the sheriff. In case some idiot jumps off the stairwell or something over there, in case they have to have an emergency. I reckon a couple of years ago, you arrested one that had to have open heart surgery. Like that afternoon, rested in the morning, next minute they're at UT having open heart surgery. And so we over budget them that way, we have to call special meetings.
And we do that for everybody.
That's the way I was.
And that's what, I'm not just saying your sheriff, I'm saying everybody, so I'm trying to get that grasp of it, and then.
So one of the ways, you'll see, there's a deficit in what we predict we'll make and what we predict we'll spend. And it looks, on the front end, it looks like, well, that's not wise budgeting. But they're both very conservative figures. We end up making more than we thought we would make, or what we said we would project, and we spend much less. So it ends up rebalancing to where we're adding fund balance usually, instead of subtracting the overall fund balance. That's what happened this year. Follow me on these figures. In the 23 budget, current budget, your budget book that we gave you back in the winter, it predicted, the budget committee predicted, that tomorrow we would have $10.3 million in fund balance. What we're actually ending up with is $12.2 million in fund balance. So starting on July 1, it starts about 12.2, right?
Well, August, we have month of July, but I know.
But starting fiscal year.
Yeah.
But it's 12.2, so because of that conservative budgeting, we end up to the good. We predict the same thing's gonna happen next year. So we're predicting that a year from tomorrow, June 30th, 2024, we're gonna have about $11.4 million in fund balance. That's $1.1 million higher than we projected we were gonna be at tomorrow. So because of this the way we conservatively budget, currently, we have a budget stable enough that we think we're gonna add back fund balance. But it is not intuitive.
But help me understand, Commissioner Baker, are you wanting to, if there was $10 million left over, you want to return it to the taxpayers? Is that what?
Well, I was just asking,
What would you want this?
does that happen, is that something we could do, or I mean, it sounds like it's all flowing, but being new, I'm just trying to find out how to.
Well, our operational was 600-something thousand, so that's what we're on this year, right?
637.
So, fund balance, even the school carries a healthy fund balance.
And that's what I'm saying there, but I'm just.
So on the front end, it looks like we're gonna spend $637,000 in fund balance. But if we do the same thing this coming year that we did last year, we'll probably add fund balance instead of subtract fund balance. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Is that accurate, Connie?
Correct. It all depends on how much revenue we get and what grants come in.
And then we'll close the books, how much we actually spend.
Anything else, Commissioner Brackett? No. Commissioner Wilson?
Two things, I actually brought up that point back when I started too. The one thing to think about, like, for them, you actually want that money back because, like, say if there's a high-risk pregnancy that is over there now, or was, and somebody's shot, it's like the deficit clock, that money's eating away as fast as it's there. If it wasn't there, then we'd be in big trouble. And that high-risk thing was eating us, I mean, literally eating us alive. And what Junior was saying, like somebody jumps over something, somebody was shot recently, and it was eating into it as quick as we could. So your you're hoping nothing happens that just quits eating into that, but you want something there because you can't predict the future on that. The one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, make it brief. You know, when the governor put out for the 17, or put out for the resource officers, we have the 17 that we're having to fulfill. This comes down to, and what the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is, you gotta make a decision. You wanna fill those positions, right? I mean, but you're at 75,000. It's a kind of a half-funded thing from the governor. When they were talking at the conference, he said, man, you're gonna eat into that. He said, you're gonna eat into that so fast, it's not even funny. But, you know, it comes out to about 110 to get an officer ready, and they're giving 75, so it's about 35,000 left over. We want resource officers in every school. We do, that's what we're going for. So the problem is you gotta pick up the tab, and that's the one that we were sitting there afterwards, we're like, yeah, one time you're sitting there going, you know, because you want more money. The cost, the good side of the car thing, because if anything, I was making phone call after phone call, trying to get it because I knew that was gonna be an issue, and it went from 6 to 4, but the good thing is, it's not a reoccurring cost. This is one of those that everybody had to swallow and go, do we want them? Do we want them in the schools? Here was the thing that got brought up too, is like, do we put them in this school? Can we find, you know, make one go to this one, go to this one? Can they do that? Sure enough, the one we picked to cut would be the one that we have a tragedy from. That's not what we're wanting to gamble on. I'm glad that we have this capability to be able to put these resource officers into these schools. I'm very, very thankful for it. But it's kind of one of those just, you know, half-funded thing. Well, I think we all swallowed when they said it was just 75, because we knew what was about to happen. But like the mayor's saying, it's a one-time type cost that we're gonna have to eat just for a little bit. So I just wanted to throw that in for clarity of kind of the way it was working. So it's a lot of resource officers, it really is. It's a lot of, you know, putting cars and getting them ready, but I'm also thankful for the other side that we're able to do that. So just a little clarity on that.
All right, Commissioner Hooks, are you wanting to?
Yeah, I accidentally hit him a little early. He's next.
Okay, Commissioner Hooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was you asking if I wanted to speak?
Well,
yes.
Yeah, do you wanna talk?
Yes.
Please do so.
Thank you. Of course it does. I guess the sheriff department is the second largest employer of our county, following the school. I may be wrong, but I believe that's correct. And having the jail under his control and command, the medical cost, it's a moving target. Today it could be here, tomorrow it could be up here. So, and that's done been alluded to. By him being one of the second largest employers, he constantly, as we have fought this past year, trying to keep positions filled. Well, when those positions are not filled, that money's sitting there until they are filled. Well, they don't go back and try to find a way to spend that money. We're fortunate to have a sheriff that has always been mindful of his budget to turn that back to the county. Does he have to? No, he could probably find a way to spend that money. I mean, that's a lot of money. But because it's a fallout, that doesn't mean you don't budget it again next year, because you still have the same needs, I guess, or the same threat in the case of inmates. You never know. You never know. Or you never know how many employees you're gonna be short for 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. And that money accumulates. So that's where your fallout comes from. It's not that they're padding their budget, it's just that they're working with what they've got, and this, you know, looking back from past budgets as to what they've spent and trying to get some kind of balance going forward. And I want to commend the sheriff and the school, for that matter, for being good stewards of the money and, never just trying to find a way to spend it because it was there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Oaks. Commissioner Berry.
Mr. Sheriff, yeah, thank you, and I would agree wholeheartedly. The sheriff has been over the last 10, 12, 14 years, however long he's been in, he's always given us money back. No qualms with that. I thought we had insurance for the inmates in the jail, do we not?
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was that all these catastrophes and things, I was hoping we had it anyway.
It's actually a discount program.
Fund balance. Mr. Wright, one of the things and the reasons we've got to have a healthy fund balance is July the 1st, they're probably gonna write some big checks. They'll write some big checks for insurance. The schools are gonna be writing payroll checks for probably 2 months before we start getting, we gotta go till October, November, December before we actually can start getting any money in. And it's a hefty fund. It's a hefty balance that we have to pay. And when you have to pay, when you're looking at your annual payroll, at your annual payments that you have to pay them up front, those prepaid payments kill you. And that's the biggest thing that we have to worry with there. But we've got we've got a chance. One thing in our resolutions though, back in the back of this one, we've got which got pay and all of that stuff. I noticed on it's got the charges that we have for Parks and Rec Department, and I don't think those haven't increased any since last year. Solid waste, on the mattress and box there, it's got $5 each. We went to $25 there, so that needs to be corrected.
Change that.
In our resolution. I think everything else is probably still staying the same. And I don't think we've had any changes in the ambulance fees, so those stay the same. And the animal shelter, I think those have stayed the same. And I guess this might be the time, because all of those committees, we never talked about changes because those committees haven't been involved in the budgets. Mayor is putting in there now that next year's budget, each committee will have a chance to set those budgets before we actually go to the budget committee. So that will help us to do stuff just like this, because now we're gonna be caught in some instances with no rate increases in those. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Can I add something to Commissioner Berry's point there? Sorry, great catch. We need to amend the, solid waste to reflect the changes we've already had. We need to amend that on.
So,
What do you mean, what changes?
Well, we voted previously in the year for the mattress and box spring to be 25 piece, and
Right, all I'll do is before she signs the official one, I'll make this change and it'll be noted in the minutes.
so we don't have to amend this budget at all? It just in a
The
note?
budget's not, no, this is just, the fees that we receive,
Yeah.
they budget for the revenue, so that's all in there.
We did that by
This-
resolution earlier.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
the only thing we're gonna change is that the $5 to 25.
That it says it in there.
That's it.
But we don't need to amend this tonight.
No,
Okay,
we'll just note that we have to change it.
so that's just a note, and that accomplishes that, because that's a change. And the second thing, to Mr. Berry's point on the schedule, if on page 8 of 18 was what he was referring to, says, if you'll see at the bottom of their budget calendar, it says during April, departments will share with their committees their budget requests. So every committee will have a chance to review the budget and provide input back to the budget committee before the budget committee begins its work in earnest on the budget. So, that, just clarifying where they can find that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
all right, thank you. Any other discussion on, Commissioner Bell?
My second now, Mr. Chairman.
It is your second time speaking.
We passed this budget, Mr. Mayor, everything stays status quo 2-3 years down the road. I've said this once before, a couple months ago. If we don't get some spikes or some good growth or what have you, if it just stays where it is right now, we will have to raise taxes.
Or cut expenses, or find alternate revenue streams. I mean,
How much are out there?
how much, what?
Cuts.
Right, I mean, it's a moving 3D puzzle all the time. There's things that happened this year we couldn't have foreseen in the budget planning last year. I mean, I wasn't here, but, you know, we all went through the budget planning process last year. There were some things we had to deal with this year that cost us money that nobody had a clue was coming. But then at the same time, we're sitting in my office one day and, I get it, somebody walks in and hands me a check for $370,000 from Monsanto. I don't know what this is. Mr. Lefeu had applied for a settlement a year or two ago from just a lawsuit that was out there. We ended up receiving funds. Those funds, as part of this budget, are being moved to the Riley Creek subfund in 171. I'm saying that to say, we can't say right now, in 2 years, if everything stays the same and we just keep going that way, we're gonna have to do this, because everything changes so much. As we were going through the budget process in the month of April, getting ready for our budget committee meetings, it blew me away how much everything was changing every single day. Every day something was new and changing. Just when I thought, okay, now I know what we're dealing with, something completely different comes in. That's it's a gray way of saying, I can't say that we're gonna raise taxes in 2 years. We may see enough growth where it's not necessary. We may have a crash that means we need to come back and raise taxes a whole lot sooner than that. There's just a lot, my goal here is to create as efficient government as possible, be as good stewards of taxpayers' dollars as we can, but to foster enough growth that we don't ever have to raise taxes to do it.
Right.
Maybe we can accomplish that, maybe we can't. It's certainly gonna be a budget goal, and we'll just keep working towards that goal and adapt the best way we can. I hope that answer satisfies you. We may have to raise taxes at some point. I hope not.
Yeah, if something catastrophic does happen, that, fund balance that we lean back on, that we're taking.
If it's not enough?
Right.
Right.
That's the only big heartburn that I have, and in past commissions, we've a lot of times made some votes and covered it up through fund balance, and then in a couple of years, we have to raise taxes. And of course, we spin a narrative to say that really 2 years ago, given this or given that didn't do it, but it really did do it, and all.
Yeah, I want to be as inclusive. I tell you what I really liked, and really helped us in budget committee this year, was we had great participation from the rest of the commission that came to budget committee in a lot of our meetings. So I think that created a lot of transparency. It helped you all ask some tough questions that we needed to consider. And the more engagement we can get through the process the whole year from the entire commission on what the budget committee is working on, I think the better we're going to be in coming up with solutions that hopefully keep us from ever having to raise taxes. We're looking at a reappraisal here coming up a year and a half or so from now, that I expect our tax rate will drop significantly. So what do we do at that time? I mean, obviously that neutralizes, with revenue, but, it's just another factor that we have to consider in the whole mix.
I'm just more than one, if we see it coming down the future, might as well tackle it now and just call it a tax hike, just for constituent purposes,
We all know there's big capital projects.
Right,
of some sort.
I'm just one, I'd rather just tell the people that this is gonna be a tax hike, at least a couple of years down the road, just do it now and get over it, but that ain't the way it is, so.
Well, and I know we're having a back and forth here, and that's probably not the way, but we're starting our long-range plan, to the long-range planning committee at the end of July, late July. One of the things I want to accomplish in that is looking at our budget planning 5-10 years out. And that's exactly the kind of things we can set as goals, to say, okay, if we see these coming down the line, budget committee sets your goal this year, and this year to do these things and bring them to commission. Maybe it is tax hike, because we know we're going to need $120 million at some point. But that's things we need to be handling way out in front, instead of letting them happen to us and try to figure out how to get there.
It's one of the most exciting things that I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Is that long-term
Well,
plan.
you'll be looking for an invitation coming your way soon.
That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
You mentioned. the
Commissioner Ferguson.
Check.
Yes,
But did we talk about here a while back, that we did say about 2025 or 2026, we would have to have a tax increase? Did we talk about that here?
Yeah, that's what I was talking to Commissioner Bell about. I mean, we know there are big capital projects out there. At some point, jail's gonna have to be addressed, some point, the schools are gonna bring forward a capital plan. I don't know when that's gonna be, or when, we don't know what's gonna be in it. And that's what I was talking to Commissioner Bell about, through long-range planning. If we can make budget planning one of our priorities, so we start looking at what we anticipate might be coming, then we can make recommendations to the budget committee on how to structure it, so that when we're here a year from now, that everybody understands what we gotta accomplish, or what we're trying to accomplish. That won't be easy, but it will, that's good government, in my opinion.
I voted on, this will make about 14 budgets I've voted on down through the years. And I've never seen a budget like this we voted on. I mean, we're gonna vote on, you know. 3 months ago, we voted on a budget, now here we are not voting on the main budget. I hope next year we get it all together.
Me too.
That way we do it at one time.
I agree.
Commissioner Henderson.
Well, what Ron Woody always said, you gotta raise taxes 2 years before any big project. You gotta have the money saved up, so we need to be looking when we're gonna have to do that, if we have to do it.
Right.
We'll throw that out there.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, call the roll.
Hey, before you,
It's too late.
well, she had,
I just wanted to say, to work for the schools.
Same for me, working for OES and conflict of interest.
All right, unlock.
You can still vote
You
on
can
the
still
budget.
vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, 12-1, motion carries. All right, our last one for this evening is 06-23-03 Bravo operational statement has been given. Take a motion. Motion by Wilson. Second by Hooks. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, nothing further at this time.
Commissioner Hooks.
Nothing further.
Any discussion?
Excuse me, Smith, I'm trying to find it.
this is the,
This one.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk. All right, motion carries 11-2. Is there any other business, to come from the commission tonight? All right, hearing none, seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you all.